to write a book. And Jonathan had previously written three books. He wrote two on the Apollo program and one called Bringing Columbia Home with Mike Reinbach, which was, if you haven't read it, it's a story of the people that worked in East Texas that basically brought Columbia home after the accident. So I had known Jonathan. The pandemic hit. I called him and I said, let's do the book. And the book came out at the end of 2021. And Keith, my great producer here, Keith Haviland, contacted me by email and said, I would like to do a film on your book. Whoa, no way. I'm not ready for that yet. And so it took a while. It took about 6 to 9 months for me to say yes. I had looked into Keith's background. He did a film on mission control, which you should see if you haven't. It's out there streaming. And he did one on Gene Cernan called Last Man on the Moon, on Gene's book. So Keith had a great reputation. I've seen his work. I had to ask Pat for his permission, my kids, also my brother and sister, because the story of my parents, I felt, to be, I want to say, respectful of my brother and sister, get their permission. They were all, yes, definitely do a film. I was a little bit shy about it. I eventually came around because the story, I was told people need to hear it. There's a good message, and Keith was willing to keep it like a real positive story and uplifting. So that's kind of how it came about, and I think I'm really, really glad that I did it.
Fantastic. So my question was going to be to you and Pat. I think you already answered it. What do you think about the end product, how it turned out, and the reaction of people to it?
Yes, I'm real happy with the final product. I think the music is wonderful. Like most of the music is original, written by Marcelo Zardes, who is a great composer, and then the orchestras shown in the credits there from Eastern Europe. They were just fantastic. I learned a lot about how they put music into films, and I think that really made the story. Who do you think that? Like the final product?
Well, our director, Anna Berryman, is not here, extremely creative. And when we saw the final product, much different than what I thought it would be. But definitely, Eileen, a great story to tell, even before on film and the book. As a pilot, kids would come in the cockpit, you boy take, and you little girl take, and you just show a picture of Eileen as an astronaut. You just do. So it's a great story for all the young people out there that wherever they came from, they can do this kind of thing as well.
Yeah, Pat has been such a big supporter of my career. It's been tough with airline pilot husband, astronaut wife, and the kids. Our kids were very patient with us.
It is embarrassing as a pilot with $25,000, but your wife flies faster. I have a couple words to handle that.
It's worth stressing that the film's a creative collaboration between Eileen and the family and Hannah, who's not here today, but Hannah did a great job in terms of creating the story, researching about 40,000 years worth of archive, both from the family and from NASA and news sources. And so, as a whole, I think it really works. We are very proud of it.
Yeah, I will say one thing about Hannah. So we got along fine, but you can imagine a movie director and a space shuttle commander. And when we disagreed on things, but we ended up working really well together. And the reason I think it works so well, Hannah, as Pat said, very creative. She wanted to bring out really the family story, the emotional side of it, and that was more like, oh, we need to do like what happened on STS 63 and what happened on STS 84. So that was more like putting specs and video in there, and Hannah's like, we need to bring in the family. And I think she was right. She really was able to make it. One of the good things that came out of it was people that see the film now, and we've been all over the United States. We've been all over the world. It's shown in many different film festivals. But people that normally wouldn't know anything about the space program come because of the story, and they learn about the space program. So it helps us reach a bigger audience.
Yes, so I think now's the time to open up to the audience. So
we can't see anybody. It's all dark out there.
Who would like to ask the first question?
I'll be going around with Hello, my name is Janae. It is an honor. I had to write the question down, so if I'm not looking directly at you, that's why. So it's clear that being an astronaut is driven by a deep passion for exploration rather than the paycheck, especially since NASA salaries for the mission are capped at a standard civil service scale. Given the extreme risk and overtime of deep space missions, do you think it's time for NASA to push for hazard pay or a more modernized compensation structure?
Just keep it coming. Well, actually, we have a love of the mission, and we do it because we love what we do. And I joined the military when I was in college. Actually, I joined ROTC, and you saw my upbringing. There was a lot of chaos in my upbringing. I was attracted to kind of the military life. Pat was also in the Air Force for many years, and I like the fact that you knew what your mission was. You knew when you had to be there, what was expected of you. Everybody did their job. Everybody worked as a team. People didn't argue with each other very much, right? And I really liked that team concept. And so I just love flying. That was the other thing, was having a passion for what we do. And we used to go around saying, I would pay you to do this job. You're paying me to fly airplanes, so that's pretty cool. And so I think it was really just a love of the job. Now the astronauts today, I'm not doing my job anymore. They do it. Yes, I think they should be paid more, but they do it for the love of the job. They do it for, let's say, the adventure and the excitement of it all. And getting to see the moon from the dark side, I would go. I mean, people would pay money to do that. So, I think probably not going to happen because nobody's demanding it. But thank you for the question.
Eileen Collins here. Thank you, Commander. For women that work in male-dominated industries, what was it that you coached to Katie Coleman to change her demeanor slightly? She was doing the job right, but how was she not presenting it?
Yeah, so we've actually gotten that question a lot in the Q&A. So by the way, Carolyn, thanks for coming. So I got a little nervous coming in here because I know there's a lot of people out there that I used to work with. And hope you like the movie. But so we've been asked a lot about Katie. Now, without going into a lot of Katie's details, I felt like as a commander, or even as a coworker, you want to help people in your mission do the best job they possibly can. And no one's going to be perfect. We all make mistakes. As Pat knows, I have my four-step process of dealing with mistakes. I got very procedural. I have procedures for dealing with conflict, dealing with decisions, dealing with problems, dealing with mistakes. So I kind of gotten very procedural because of my military background. But on that one situation, I felt like whether it's a man or a woman working with me, they need feedback. Everyone needs to get feedback. And if no one does a perfect job. But if you're not giving someone feedback as a leader, you're not doing your job. And there's a way to do that by focusing on their strengths and saying, you're really strong at this, you need to work at this. And so that was part of I think that was really part of my job, is to always give feedback to my crew members. And if I don't, they think I'm not paying attention to what they're doing. And Katie was actually very forthcoming bringing that out. I'm like, yeah, I do remember that. But again, that was just something that I do. And for those of you that are in a position of leadership, I think the people that work for you, they want feedback. So, and I'm glad that Katie brought that out in the movie because it's generated so many questions. Thank you.
Next question, Linda.
I'm Rayon, and I'm 9. On your fourth mission, when you were landing, how fast were you going?
Well, hi, thank you for the question. I'm glad you came to see Spacewoman. How fast was I going when I went? I was going faster than I wanted. I actually, you heard me say it was important for me to make a good landing. We ended up diverting into Edwards Air Force Base on that last mission. We were targeting, that was July. We you know, the weather's like in Florida in July. So we had a wave off, couple of wave offs. There were too many thunderstorms in Florida, so we ended up going to the backup landing site, which was Edwards, which has a higher pressure altitude, with higher altitude, and dry air. Without going into a lot of detail, we were supposed to land, I'm trying to remember, like 220 knots, and I was a little bit faster than that. We all like nitpick our landings to the 1 knot. But yeah, we landed pretty fast. And the other thing is when we were heavy, and the reason we landed fast, we had an extra 5,000 pounds in the back of the shuttle, which was the logistics module and all the stuff we were bringing back from the space station. So when an airplane has more weight on it, you need to land at a faster speed, and that has to do with like aerodynamics. And in the space shuttle, we would land anywhere between, if you go to knots, 195 to 205 knots, which is nautical miles per hour. It's a little bit faster than miles per hour. But thanks for the question. That's got to be tough when you're 9 years old to stand up and ask a question. Good for you. You're very brave.
Okay, hi. In all your trainings you've been through the military and for the space program, is there any training or events along the way that was kind of unexpected or funny that you'd like to share?
Oh, well, there's so many. Was there anything unexpected? Well, there's a lot of funny stuff, and there was a lot of, well, the unexpected stuff, most of it you saw in the film was our malfunctions that happened. My first mission, right after we separated from the external tank, we got 3 master alarms, and they were all jets. These little maneuvering jets failed. And we had to do a lot of procedures to get those jets working again. I won't go into that long story. Instead, I'm going to go to something funny. And some of you might remember this. When we did the Mir, the shuttle Mir program, which was in the 1990s, there were 6 shuttles that docked with the space station Mir. So we got to know the Russians very well. And when you go to Russia to train, you have to, it's a lot of it's not just the training, but it is like diplomacy and getting along with the Russians. So you can trust each other, building trust. So to get the Russians to trust you, you have to drink with them. So when we were there training,
I want to ask a question. Stand here.
So now we're up in space. So here's the funny part. We're up in space, and the commander, Vasily Sablayev, who's really kind of a rough Russian,
Sit down.
had this Courvoisier, which is alcohol. And like we had a flight rule that said alcohol will not be consumed on board the space shuttle. That was a flight rule that I looked up. I read all the flight rules and that one really stood out. Why do we get well? It said alcohol will not be consumed on the space shuttle. But it didn't say it will not be consumed on beer. So when we were on beer, Vasily brings out his Courvoisier. They didn't like vodka in space. They're like, we don't think it tastes very good up here. We like the Courvoisier. So we would open the Courvoisier, pass it around, and of course, there's no gravity. So the liquid would come out like the neck of the bottle, and it would come on the outside, and you would like, off the outside. I don't know if I wrote about that in my book or not. That was kind of fun. And then so the bottle went around a couple times, and then Vasily like grabbed it back and tried to find the rest of it. But you know, we didn't want to drink anyway, but it was kind of a fun thing to do. Never reported it to mission control.
I think you just have. Next question.
First of all, this isn't my question, but first of all, I would love for you to write another book about those 4-step process and how you manage all that and how you manage the team. And I'll be looking for that. The real question is, you knew in high school that you wanted to be a pilot, and then you went on into college and ROTC and then on to Stanford. What was your personal educational path? What did you focus on in high school, study-wise? And and then college, and then I guess by the time you got to Stanford, you knew where you were going and what you were doing. But just give me that from a, whatever, 14, 15, 16-year-old brain that said, I probably need some math.
So there's, thank you for the question. There is a lesson to be learned here. Looking back to my astronaut interview, the first question that they asked me in my astronaut interview, and it was Jerry Ross, said, what did you do in high school? And I said, not much. Can we go on to college? And so when I talk to young people today, I tell them to take advantage of what you have in high school. Take math all 4 years, take science all 4 years. Even if you're not going to go into math and science or STEM, take the courses because they teach you how to solve problems. And learning math teaches you how you define a problem, what are the tools for solving the problem, what steps do you put those tools in to solve a problem, and science, the scientific method. So all of those help a young person whose brain is developing learn life and learn how to solve problems. I did not take math and science my senior year because I was following my friends. I think it's in the phone. My father was like, stop following the crowd, like do your own thing.